Representative Paulina Luna says that there was more coming, and yes, more came out because just within 24 hours yesterday, a fifth woman led a press conference in Beverly Hills and said Swalwell drugged her, choked her, and raped her, sexually assaulted her in a hotel room in 2018. The Los Angeles County Sheriff confirmed yesterday it has opened a criminal investigation. Now, he now has two active investigations running simultaneously in Manhattan and in Los Angeles. So let's watch the account of the lady.
He invited me to two public events. I knew he was married at the time and that his wife was pregnant. He was my friend. On the third occasion, I believe he drugged my drink. I only had one glass of wine.
Okay. Let me know in the chat if you
We
can
were
hear
supposed to go to a
the
political
audio
event,
coming
only
through
he
at your
said he
end.
needed to get paperwork from his hotel room. When I arrived at his hotel room, I was already incapacitated and I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died. I did not consent to any sexual activity. Although I did not undergo a rape kit at the time, I disclosed the assault to the people closest to me.
Okay, so that was her account yesterday. Um, Now this is a very painful account from her perspective, and a lot of people are essentially calling for Eric Swalwell to resign. So the woman, Lorna Drews, held this conference in Beverly Hills and alleged that she was drugged and choked by Eric Swalwell. Now, let me know in the comments section if you believe this allegation, because a lot of people say Eric Swalwell essentially is guilty already. And I'll tell you the truth, and this is the way I see it, okay? um, there has to be due process. There has to be the thing that we all love the American justice system for, which is innocent before proven guilty. That is what the American justice system is all about. But for the last 10 years, there's been this um, situation where when a woman me too's a prominent figure who happens to be a man, the man is seen as guilty before proven innocent. So let's see how this plays out in the courts. Already, we have five women already accusing Eric Swalwell of sexual misconduct as a public figure. Let's know your thoughts in the chat and in the comment section. Now, speaking of the chat and the comment section, we have an ongoing competition where the most active person in the chat who contributes to the show wins a $10 coffee, all right, on us. So feel free to let us know, to post your thoughts in the chat. We want to know what you think about her story, about the allegations that have come out so far, whether you like Eric Swalwell or not. Okay, and that's the beauty of a fair justice system. It's not about whether you like the person or not. It's about whether the evidence adds up and whether the person actually committed those crimes. Already, the Democrat Party is distancing itself from Eric Swalwell. There are some people who feel like Eric Swalwell has been essentially set up by his party, because the synchronized way that they all stepped back away from him when these allegations began to come out, and essentially the way the all the allegations came out, it was almost like it was all scripted, and that is why Patricia, my co-host, uh, essentially said that she feels like one of the women who was interviewed by CNN was lying. So there's that. So let's see how this all plays out. Now, in another story, the Democrats have filed a bill to remove Trump using the 25th Amendment. And this is, of course, a follow up to, the stories that we've been covering concerning the posts by Trump. I think they've used this as another opportunity to float another takedown of Trump in Congress. 50 Democrats filed a bill yesterday to remove Trump from office using the 25th Amendment. Now, let's remember that the likes of and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones have been floating his removal using the 25th Amendment for some days now. And now the Democrats are actually doing it in Congress. They say he is mentally unfit. And they've been saying it since he took office back in 2017. They've been using that phrase again and again. And when someone who was actually mentally unfit was in office, happened to be a Democrat, they were all, saying that he was totally fine. Now, Trump, who has essentially been said to work long hours late into the night, okay, and he's been doing this for a full year, straight. They claim that that person is mentally unfit to run the country. But the guy who took vacations and spent most of his time laying on a beach was the guy who was fit for office. Yeah, right. So the White House has responded that these are the same Democrats who spent 4 years hiding Biden's cognitive decline from the country. The bill has no path to passage, but they're filing it anyway. Now, it's a sad thing to see the Democrat Party um, become a punchline to a joke, because these people have been elected into office to represent their constituents, and all they spent their time doing is going after Trump. How does that serve their constituents? How does that solve the real problems that their constituents are facing? Not the made up problems that the likes of Rokana standing in front of a gas pump, claiming that the high prices in California are Trump's fault, when California has chronic high prices because of the policies that the Democrats in California have implemented. Now, the video that we're about to watch references a Supreme Court ruling granting President Trump broad wartime authority. In spite of all of the attacks that he's facing, he's actually winning on some of these, issues, especially when it comes to the Supreme Court. And let's listen to this and then give us your thoughts.
Now we have a Fox News alert. The Supreme Court just cleared the way for Trump to deport illegals even faster. The High Court ruled that Trump can use the Alien Enemies Act to send Venezuelan gangbangers to a mega prison in El Salvador. This is a huge ruling in Trump's favor and a major win for the country. After, as you know, D.C. Judge James Boasberg ordered a stop to the deportations. So this is pretty significant. These deportations, Caroline, can keep going.
So the deportations have been a huge issue with the Democrats. They've been hurt somehow by the fact that people who enter the country illegally should be kicked out. They've raged about the war in Iran, even though Democrats for years have been on record saying that Iran is an existential threat and has to be dealt with. We have Hillary Clinton on record stating that if she gets into office, she would essentially attack Iran to make sure they don't get nuclear weapons. But the moment Donald Trump does the thing that everyone has been saying for years, he's suddenly the devil. Now, Um, the report from yesterday is that there was another attempt to impeach Donald Trump. So let's listen to this.
So that they wouldn't be seen as supporting President Trump and angering their base. That includes joining with Republicans to vote yes. Another 47 voted present so that they wouldn't be seen as supporting President Trump and angering their base. That included House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, and the Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar. They said impeachment should be a sacred tool. It requires comprehensive investigations, including hearings. And overall, the Democrats are pretty frustrated that their colleagues are beginning to weaponize impeachment. One senior Democratic member telling Axios, quote, "It feels like a lot of people are using the impeachment stuff as a campaign tactic." Now,
So this is the Democrats' playbook right now. They don't have anything to offer the American people. All they do is scream and shout and throw tantrums while the Trump administration keeps doing what it's doing. It's so sad that this is the state of affairs with the Democrat Party. I've said many times that if I had grown up in the United States, I would have been a Democrat. Honestly, my parents loved the Democrat Party, and I think that I have some sympathies with the Democrat Party. But when you watch for years, the insane policies that Democrats have been unveiling over and over again, and then they double down whenever they are called out on these insane policies, and then they quadruple down when you remind them to say, "Hey, what happened? You weren't for this policy 10 years ago. What changed?" They essentially feel like it's an attack on their person for them to actually explain why these policies make sense for the American people. Okay. Now, when you look at some of the things they've said over the last few days, for example, they claim that the Iranian war is essentially a lost cause for the Trump administration. Not even They don't see the Trump administration as representing the American people. So there's this thing where they separate the Trump administration or MAGA from the United States entirely. So it's almost like they want everyone to believe that the Trump administration is a rogue government. But they claim that the Trump administration has essentially failed in Iran. But sadly for them, the report coming from Iran is that, and this is coming from Al Jazeera. I'm going to just read this article. The US military says blockade of Iran ports completely halts economic trade. Now, Iran's economy is collapsing, but yet the Democrats don't sound like they are taking the hint that this is actually happening. The Democrats said the blockade would never work, but it's working. Everybody is reacting. NATO, that refused to assist in prosecuting the war against the Houthis, who were bottlenecking the Strait of Hormuz, have suddenly grown bold to come against Trump when he decides he's going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. So in their books, Trump is the real threat, not the terrorists who were firing rockets at the ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz. It's upside down world, guys. So um, Iran's own central bank has told their president the economy will take 12 years to recover. Does that sound like a country that won? Okay. That inflation would hit 180%. They cannot make payroll. Democrats spent the last 2 weeks calling Trump a deranged lunatic for this strategy. Today, CENTCOM said that the blockade has completely halted all economic trade at Iranian ports. And this is a recent report coming from Al Jazeera. Let's watch this. Hope we don't have any ads.
The U.S. military says that no ships have passed its blockade of Iran's southern coast over the past 24 hours. It says that 6 merchant vessels complied with its orders to turn around. So this here is the live map, and it shows a handful of oil tankers, the red dots, and cargo ships, those are the green dots, currently in or near the Strait of Hormuz, which is the narrowest point of this waterway. Arrows indicate the vessels are moving. Dots show those which are stationary. Hundreds of vessels remain stuck, concerned by threats of attack and sea mines laid by Iran. The U.S. military says that it is working to support freedom of navigation for vessels transiting through the Strait of Hormuz from non-Iranian ports. Let's discuss.
Let's remember this: the fear isn't that they're going to be attacked by the U.S. ships or the U.S. military. It is the Iranians and the Houthis that they are scared of. Okay, so let's keep listening.
Discuss this with Alexandru Hudiestanu. He's a military and diplomatic analyst with expertise in maritime security.
The experts.
Sir, what lessons do you learn from the first 24 hours of this U.S. naval blockade of Iran?
The time is short, so the lessons that we learn here are more...
Yeah, small sample size so far.
Yes, small sample size. In my opinion, U.S. has this blockade established somewhere further away from the actual strait.
As in their ships are located?
Yes.
But does that change anything?
No, because in the end, the whole point is to basically interdict these ships that will leave from Iranian ports, or the ships that would go towards Iranian ports, to actually be connected to the global supply chain. So it doesn't really matter if the ships are stopped in the mouth of the strait, or they are stopped in the Gulf of Oman, or further into the Arabian Sea. The point is for the ships to not reach the destination ports going out of the strait, or reaching destination ports while trying to get into the strait. So lessons, I think we'll start learning a bit later regarding especially the ships that will come out of the strait, because if you look at the distance between Larak Island and, let's say, the entrance towards Arabian Sea.
So Larak Island is this, where we see the cluster of green dots at the top of the screen, just below it, that's Larak Island.
Yes, so it's basically the checkpoint that Iran insists on ships to pass around at north and south of this island in order for them to access the recommended passages that the Iran Revolution Guard Corps recommended. So from there all the way to the entrance to the Arabian Sea is roughly 325 nautical miles, that's 600 kilometers. And that's roughly 1 day of passage, 1 day and a half for ships to pass. So if ships try to pass and they, for example, stop the AIS in order to try to shadow their passage, if they will pass, they will have to pass through that point. And if we'll see this in 48 hours, if we'll see ships that were previously in the Gulf and then 48 hours somewhere along the Indian Ocean, then we can surely say, yes, some ships passed through the blockade. So far, we don't have that particular, let's say, pattern of life developing.
There are two aspects to this naval blockade, or rather, I should say, there are two things that the U.S. Navy is doing. One is try to impose a blockade on Iran, and that's what we've just been talking about. You're saying that within the next 2 days, it'll be interesting to track those ships, see which ones may or may not be getting through, and that will tell us whether the blockade is working. But the other layer of the U.S. Navy's mission is to create a safe passage and conditions for the safe passage of commercial ships through the strait, those that are not going to or coming from Iran. Is that possible at this point?
It depends. It depends if U.S. Navy will take action in terms of trying to demine or at least create safe corridors in the mined areas, or...
So essentially, the blockade is working. All of this is just saying that the blockade is working. And if Iran can't sell crude to China and other countries that are aligned with them, it chokes up their economy. Their economy already was in a shambles before this entire conflict started. So that is something significant to pay attention to. Okay. Now, let's know what you think about what's going on so far. This is a lunchtime update about this entire situation. Not much has happened because one, the ceasefire is still going on. You have the blockade choking the Iranian economy and ensuring that they don't essentially have any breathing room to recover economically. And then you also have everything else that's happening with the Democrat Party. Now, there's a bit of a development on the in Congress concerning Sheffield McCormick. So we all remember this representative who essentially stole $5 million from her district, and we covered part of the hearing last week. Now, Anna Paulina Luna is announcing that Democrat Representative Sheila Sheffield McCormick will be expelled from Congress if she does not resign. McCormick stole $5 million in FEMA funds for her campaign. Eric Swalwell also faces expulsion. Well, we talked about that earlier. Now let's listen to this video that essentially covers that statement by Anna Paulina Luna.
Also share that at the end of the month, Sheila McCormick, the Democrat that stole $5 million of FEMA funds, is going to be brought up on a motion to expel. So if she does not resign beforehand, we will expel her. But Eric has an option. I'm going to bring this vote next week. If Democrats want to protect this type of garbage, I wouldn't recommend it, but they're going to be put on the board for that. I'm tired of this. I'm not going to serve with these sexual deviants. That's not what Congress is all about. And I think that we need to focus on the business of the American people, and it doesn't include this stuff. So let's get rid of it.
So, let's see if either of these people resigns. Eric Swalwell claimed that he was going to resign yesterday, but Congress closed for business yesterday, and a letter of resignation from him and Tony Gonzalez were not read. So we're still waiting to see what happens with those two situations. Okay. It's interesting that we're seeing all of this corruption, graft, deviancy being exposed. But the biggest things that we're also seeing is how certain reactions from the Democrat Party, maybe they are surprising because they usually back their own. Here's AOC talking about McCormick, Sheffield McCormick, in his video.
Can I also ask about Congresswoman Sheila McCormick, Sheila Sheffield McCormick?
Yeah,
do you believe that she should be expelled? The Ethics Committee last month found her guilty of over 20 violations.
And I think that this case is an example of how this process should go, right? Serious allegations, some that may even be criminal, be subject to criminal investigation. We went, instead of just knee-jerking, going to some things, we can't all be part of an investigatory process. It went through an investigatory process. Ethics has found her guilty, and that's the conclusion that we have, and that's going to come to the floor. And I hope that we can all be bipartisan, because this is what our processes are for, to uphold those conclusions that we see by the commission.
So you think that she should be expelled or should resign?
I would agree with that. Yes.
That she should resign,
Yes,
and if she doesn't resign, she should be expelled.
Yes, and if the Ethics Committee, because my understanding, as you said, the Ethics Committee found her guilty, then I would vote in concordance with that. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, I agree with AOC there, which is rare. Look, we can disagree on certain policies, but agree on the processes of Congress. So AOC is in agreement that she should be expelled. But for months now, Democrats stood behind Sheffield McCormick. Essentially, there were insinuations that this was an attack on her. And I don't know, aren't you just tired of people conflating people being called to accountability as having something to do with either their their politics or their race? Aren't you just tired of that? Personally, I'm exhausted by having these meaningless conversations. They're meaningless, but the sad thing. These meaningless conversations are the basis of a lot of people's decision making when it comes to who they vote for, what policies they push. And whenever a policy or a person is wrapped around a race issue or a party affiliation, it muddies the waters. Look at Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell had been accused several times. First, he was accused of his involvement with a Chinese spy, and I think this was before he was given his role on the intelligence subcommittee. I think that was before that. Let me know if I got that right in the comments. And n- it was as if the Democrats were immune to the fact that, look, this guy shouldn't be anywhere near the intelligence subcommittee. He's been compromised by sleeping with a Chinese spy. You can't trust his judgment. Okay, already he's proven the capacity to be unfaithful to his spouse. And then people acted surprised when the allegations began to surface of his conduct with all these women, five at at current count. So it's refreshing to see simple conversations around, yes, we agree on policy. I wish AOC and the Democrats would do the same thing for immigration and end this shutdown, this insane shutdown that they have been dragging out for the last how long now? It's been going on for how many days now? And I think this is the longest shutdown that they've ever had. So they've surpassed the record, and they're claiming that they want to defund ICE by shutting down funding to DHS, and we're seeing the impact across the board. Meanwhile, ICE has been funded for for the next, what is it, 3 years? So it's quite unfortunate that we see them doing this, with the American people's time and money, and all it is just a way to try and make Trump bleed, and I don't think it's working that well. Now, of course, President Trump, uh, there was the boo boo from the situation with him posting the image of him dressed as Jesus and his little tiff with the Pope, and of course that there was the attack on him, trying to get him to be removed. Okay, essentially, here are the ranking members who submitted that. Judiciary ranking member Jamie Raskin. He was the one who introduced the bill yesterday with 50 Democrat co-sponsors that would create a 17-member commission to assess whether the 25th Amendment should be invoked to remove Trump from office. More than 85 House and Senate Democrats have now called for Trump to be impeached or removed. It's crazy what we're watching now. Raskin, he cite something weighty? Did he cite like Trump actually did something that shows that he is unfit to rule? No, 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 no. Here's what he cited. He cited the Jesus image. These guys want to feign outrage by pointing out, oh, look, he posted a picture of him looking like Jesus. And they say that's the reason to impeach him. Whenever you take positions like that, these are weak positions. And these weaken your position as a serious political opposition. So he cited the Jesus image, the Pope attack. Of course, the Pope was being a hypocrite. Trump called him out, and Jamie Raskin wants to sound offended on behalf of the Pope. Okay, this is the party that essentially stands in opposition to things like the nuclear family. Okay, they are so pro-abortion, and most of them are pro-abortion up to birth, and they want to sound like they care about biblical teachings. And then he talked about the Iranian threats. Everyone knows that when Trump said we will end their civilization, that was to bring them to the negotiating table. You knew it, I knew it, but the Democrats want to pretend like Trump actually wanted to drop nukes on the Iranian people and kill everybody. And then he said that the war powers violations were grounds for the bill. Now, the White House responded that they said this: lightweight Jimmy Raskin is a stupid person's idea of a smart person. Look, I guarantee that came from Trump himself. He just dictated it and walked off. Jamie Raskin is a stupid person's idea of a smart person. They also pointed out that the White House also pointed out that Democrats like Raskin spent years covering up Joe Biden's serious mental and physical decline from the American people. Okay, now many of us lived through that. Can you tell me that you've forgotten so soon what we all had to live through for 4 years of the Biden administration? And that's why when I watch Tucker Carlson, um, um, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly say the things they said over the last few days and essentially attack Trump. The question is, do you want to go back to that? Okay, do you want to go back to that? Do you want to weaken the Republican Party so that they lose the midterms? Do you want to go back to a state of affairs where the Democrat Party wins the House and Senate, and then they push policies that block Trump from actually achieving the things he ran on? And then in 2028, they run on the fact that, oh, look, Trump didn't actually do the things he said he would do, but they leave out the fact that they spent 3 years, or let's even say 4 years, blocking Trump at every turn. I mean, if people can't read the room, if people can't simply see what's going on and interpret the board, okay, we really can't help you. And that's why a lot of us are really unhappy with Tucker Carlson and the gang. We are. Oh, let's not forget Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you want to oppose someone from within, you do it in a smarter way. You don't create such a division, such a divide that it weakens the party. And then when you lose the election, guess what they'll do? They'll blame Trump. This is straight out of the Democrats' playbook. Okay, anything that happens, Trump is to blame. Right. So this is all we have for the lunchtime live stream. Let's know your thoughts in the chat and in the comment section. Well, during the live stream, we do have an ongoing giveaway that we do during the live streams, and that is you get to give your opinion in the chat, and then we award a coffee to the person who actually posts and drives more conversation in the live chat. So this afternoon, we don't have any winners, so we're going to keep our coffee, but we would love to have more activity happening. So this was a lunchtime update on what's going on in the news. And we're possibly going to be back tonight. So we're going to take a break and be back again tonight to see what's going on and what other updates there are. And if you have any stories that you want us to cover, you're always free to post them in the live chat. You're also free to send us an email at crossroadsirl@gmail.com. You can send us a topic that you would like us to cover at this email address, and we could queue it up for the next time we go live. So please feel free to send us your thoughts. And if you just want to reach out and let us know your thoughts concerning one or two topics that we've discussed, go ahead and do so. We always welcome rational conversations, and we love to connect with you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.